Oh, look at that. We're live. All right, so we're walking here, Average Joe, and this is episode 11, I think. The odds and into maybe the teens. So my last video, hopefully you'll watch it. It was all about two of them actually, all about sciatica. One was trying to improve the pain through exercise, through flossing or stretching the muscles around the joint. And the other one was about sleeping positions and trying to get some sleep when it comes to sciatica symptoms. So hopefully you guys will go ahead and look at those two. That's what it's all about. And my next video is going to be on lower back. And we're going to talk about two main muscle groups that people really don't talk about much. One of them is the multifidus muscle that I talked about 2 years ago. And the other one is the latissimus dorsi, or the lat muscle for short. People don't think of that lat muscle really doing anything. They think of more of a shoulder, but what they don't realize, if you're not a physical therapist or someone who's treated backs for over 20 years, is that lat muscle is huge and it spans the entire backside and it attaches to the lower part of your back and at what we call the thoracolumbar fascia. And so it's this white, thick tissue. And it pulls, those lat muscles pull that fascia in place. Pulls that fascia in place. And when you raise your arms up, it naturally wants to extend your back and stabilize everything in place. And the multifidus muscle, oh my, you're all talking about the abdominal muscles for supporting your back. They don't know anything when it comes to multifidus, because that big muscle is running the entire spine. It's the largest down to lower back, and it runs all the way through your neck. So it runs the entire spine, all the different sections, literally from one segment to the other. It attaches. And so if you're thinking about, what's the big deal with multifidus? Well, the big is this. If you're having any kind of chronic pain at all in your back, coming and going, there's tons of electrical current testing, nerve conduction testing to show that what happens is that muscle starts to shrink. And as that muscle starts to shrink, you lose stability, and also fat deposits start going into where the muscle tissue is supposed to be. So it starts to shrink. The fat tissue starts to form into the fibers of the multifidus to fill it in. And now instead of having a strong, stabilized lower spine, everybody's worried about the abdominals. They need to worry about that piece, because you're dealing with the muscles now shrunk, and you're worried about fat tissue in there at the same. So you lose here. And then it starts putting excessive stress on the spine, the facet joints. You start getting inflammation from that standpoint. And then it tears on the disc more, because you've literally lost the entire foundation. And so then the disc starts taking on more beating. So very, very important, those two muscles. So my next video I do, recorded wise, is going to be on that. So hopefully you guys will look for that one. So I plan on pushing that out probably Saturday. I got to mow the lawn, so I got to do that. But I'm right now working on the B-roll, working on some really good exercises that you guys can do at home with just some basic items that you have around your house to work on that piece. So crossing my fingers, and hopefully you'll be out then. So, and I also have a little caveat to that too. So we'll see what happens. So that's the big thing, the multifidus and the latissimus dorsi for the next video. If you have any questions, just leave me a DM down below, and we'll go from there, right? We will go from there. So, horror stories, right? Let's talk about some horror stories. So, 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, it's right before I went into home care. Still doing some outpatient, still doing some inpatient. I was on the other side. I was at that point just being a clinician. And at that time, it was pretty crazy. So I'll tell you that in just a second. Like the truck, like the truck.
Appreciate it.
So so it was an outpatient, and at that time, really didn't have a lot of equipment. Really dealing with some old archaic equipment. So I was pushing management at that point to try and get the foundation, the hospital foundation, to maybe front some money for us to get us some newer equipment, because the equipment we had was just ridiculously old. So they did that. So if any of you guys are watching that, peace and thank you. I'm not in that department anymore, but anyways, onwards and upwards, right? So what I had done is I'd worked with a patient, and it was probably 2 months into it. The diagnosis was neck pain, and the neck pain was terrible. Side, they had such a forward head like that all the time, and I'm like, do you realize your head is that far forward? You got all this neck pain going on. And he had a decent idea, and the muscles had hypertrophied, had enlarged, because if you throw your head forwards for that period of time. And what had happened was they had injured their neck years ago. Then, within some x-rays, it ended up having some natural fusion in there, and as well as degenerative disc that just kind of thinned down, and then just fused. So you had some vertebrae fusing in there. This poor person also had scoliosis on top of it, so they were getting a rotation from their thoracic affecting their cervical spine. So that was going on. And you go to some of these websites, and oh yeah, we're just going to crack the neck. I'm like, oh God, that would be an absolute disaster. So what we did is we really worked on just what we could manage. We were trying to manage their pain and improve their function as possible. We weren't going to get their neck back to where yours and mine is, where it's perfectly aligned. I mean, those days were long gone. There's too much structural change in the spine that the nerves have accommodated to, the blood vessels, the fascia, the tendons, the ligaments, the entire structure. So we got their pain less. I think she started on an 8 and ended up with like a 5. So that, she was obviously she was able to go back and do some stuff that she liked to do, which is some overhead reaching for the counter for some stuff to get out of the kitchen cabinets and stuff like that. And we did improve their sleep. They didn't make it completely pain-free, but we did improve their sleep. And we worked on the things that I talk to you guys about all the time: anti-inflammatories, ice, and resting it for first couple days. And then if you want to look at any of my neck catalog, I have some basic stretches that we worked in there. We worked on the scalenes. We worked on the sternocleidomastoid. We worked on that levator scapula that I always talk about, and when I'm discussing my neck videos, because that's a huge one. And we just did some basic postural stuff, and that was it. Did about 4 or 5 weeks of it. Started out with 3 times a week, I think for only like 2 weeks, just to see how much we could get the pain to come down. And then we went into some stretching and some strengthening. I think we did some taping. I have some taping videos on my website, on the neck category, I think. And oops, I gotta, for some reason, no, for a second there it said stop me walking. No, I'm still walking. Yeah, crazy wild. I think I'm floating or something. And so, and you know, that was the story, you know. And I've talked about this before. You go on the internet and you look at all these people that have all these crazy neck problems, and you know, they go see a chiropractor or they go see some witch doctor, as far as I'm concerned. And oh yeah, they're better. I'm thinking to myself, oh, they ain't better. You sure the hell didn't fix their symptoms. And you yanked on their neck. You manipulated a couple joints because they were so restricted. And once that tissue comes, once that joint is put right back to where it was before, all that tissue is going to shrink right back down. And you're going to have more inflammation in that area than they ever did before. You have some improved pain for a very short period of time. Probably within a couple hours, they're in more pain than they ever were. But they don't want to tell you that piece of it. So, anywho. So, I'm going to leave you guys for a little tidbit here. So, let's give you a little caption of what we did this week. Out here walking, doing my thing. Hope you guys are doing yours. And hope you'll stop by and watch one of my videos. And if you have any questions, give me a thumbs up. Hopefully you'll like. If you dislike, okay, give me some information on why you didn't like it, and maybe I'll get better at it. But until next time, Average Joe always says look up and keep smiling. See you next time, folks.